Good morning, everyone. Today I am announcing the establishment of Revere's Casino Advisory Commission that will track and review the impacts of the opening of Encore Boston Harbor on our local community and our local businesses. We know that the opening of Encore Boston Harbor will have significant impacts on our community, and some of them we know will be good, and some of them we expect will be negative. But we cannot take a back seat and just wait and see what happens. We have to be proactive. We have to be ready and prepared to support our residents and our business community. The Casino Advisory Commission will track data and report information to advocate for the resources to address and support the impacts to our community. This data will provide us information to best allocate our own resources and to make sure that we can make the case for additional resources from the state and from our other partners. I'm joined this morning, as you can see, by our city's public safety chiefs, leaders within our public works, transportation, constituent services, economic development, and substance use disorder initiatives office, all of whom will participate in our commission. Starting with Encore's opening this weekend, and over the next several months, we will have a rapid response team that will be available and in place to deal with immediate needs, and we will begin tracking data to report out on the number of potential impacts to our community, both positive and negative. This weekend, shuttle buses will be running from the Wonderland Blue Line stop in Revere to Encore, and we will be tracking those trips and also the amount of parking and the increased vehicles in this area in the immediate days. We are also prepared and will be prepared with on-call staff for the weekend should we need to assist our neighbors with resources such as emergency services or traffic management. Some of the things that we'll be tracking over a longer period of time include traffic trends, associated police and fire overtime, calls for service to Revere Police and Revere Fire Department, our crime rates and the types of crimes that we're seeing in our city, total casino-related calls and requests for constituent services, impacts on our city's hospitality industry, increases in activity at our local pawn shop and secondhand dealers, changes to any short-term rental activity in our city, and mutual emergency response aid provided to the City of Everett. Today, I'm also calling on our own residents and business owners to join us in this effort and to make sure that they're reporting their observations to Revere 311. Revere 311 will be where all calls related to casino feedback will be categorized and tracked. I want to again reiterate that we cannot take a back seat. We have to be proactive. We have to be ready and prepared to support our residents and our business owners and make sure that our residents know that we have their back. With that, I will take any questions.
What are some of the immediate concerns you have this weekend and in the coming week?
So immediate concerns are obviously traffic and the traffic impact. I know that yesterday's press conference, there were some conversations about making sure that folks do not use their own vehicles. The shuttle service that's going to be run in Revere is obviously going to have an impact on our roadways, and so we want to make sure that we're being proactive and make sure that the residents know that the city is being proactive about what happens in our city.
What specific routes in Revere are you most concerned about when it comes to traffic?
So Revere is blessed with a border to Boston and Everett. We have major roadways that run through Route 1A, Route 16, Route 1, you name them, we're worried about them. So there are, I think every major roadway, and especially the state roads that run through our city, we're most concerned about.
Mayor, you do not have a surrounding community agreement with the casino, unlike other towns. Why is that? And what's the difference for Revere because of that?
So unfortunately, we do not have a surrounding community agreement. That was a decision that was made by the previous administration. What we're focused on and what I'm trying to make sure people know is that we have their back, that this is happening. I cannot control what happens in Everett or at the casino, but I can control what happens in the city, or try to attempt to control what happens in the city and be proactive about it and make sure that our residents know about it. Unfortunately, we don't have the resources, and part of the reason why we want to track some of the data and some of the overtime costs is because we want to make the case to folks, to the state and to others that we are, going to be impacted by this negatively in some ways, and that we deserve to be in line for some form of mitigation. We share a border with Everett, yet we are not considered a surrounding community. I don't know how that works, but the fact is that we have to make the case, and that's part of what we're doing today.
Do those other towns get money from the casinos that you will not be able to?
So every other town that has a border, that shares a border with Everett, does get an additional, an annual payment from Encore or from Wynn. We do not. For example, Malden, which is a great example, it gets over $1 million a year, per year, as a surrounding community.
So you think are you hoping to get money from the state mitigation? Are you also hoping to get money from the casino to cover some of the expenses this season?
So we've been in active conversations with the Gaming Commission and with Encore and with Wynn folks. We want to make the case and make sure that we have the data to support the fact that there are impacts, and that's what this is about. We want to use this data to be able to make sure that we can allocate our own resources properly, and that we're allocating enough money in police and fire and any other substance use disorder or traffic or public works, but also to make the case that these impacts should be recognized by the state and by the Commonwealth.
Well, I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify. Are you also hoping to take that data and make the case to win?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, right. And absolutely. We would be looking to use this as a report as we start to gather information and report out the information. We would be having conversations with the folks at Wynn, at the Gaming Commission, and with anyone who will listen to make sure that they understand that there are impacts to our community.
One thing that came out yesterday, Mayor, from the Everett Police Chief, was there's only 3,000 parking spaces at this place, and we could max out at 50,000. So if people try to park on the side streets in Everett, forget it. We're going to have heavy maintenance, we're going to tow in a hurry. I can see on Sunday, if Wonderland gets filled up or whatever, is there going to be a similar kind of radar zoom on parking spaces in Revere?
So we've made sure that our public safety folks are making sure that there is a concerted effort to kind of address any of the impacts, any of the negative impacts. If there end up being some, in some ways, parking can end up being a public safety issue because a fire truck may not be able to get down a side street, or an ambulance may not be able to get down a side street. We're a dense community. We may have some issues like that. We would be proactive in making sure that our side streets are clear and that there are not, especially around the Wonderland area, that there isn't, any kind of negative impact on parking or on the quality of life of our residents.
Bringing it back to residents, what's your right now advice? You guys are going to be collecting the data that they submit to you, but it's going to be packed, it's going to be jammed, it's going to be more than Sunday. So what is your advice to them as far as getting around this casino and also going there, but mostly getting around it?
Right, so my advice would be to make sure that at a minimum that they're acknowledging and letting us know that there are impacts that they're seeing, right? We want to be able to track those impacts and know, and that's part of what this conversation is to make sure that the residents know that we have their back, and that we want to track whatever negative impacts that they're feeling or positive impacts that they're feeling from the casino. My advice would be to try to stay off the roads, but we know that that's going to be pretty difficult, and that folks are gonna have their own mind when it comes to getting to the casino. Again, the shuttle service is being provided at Wonderland. We would encourage folks to try to get off the road as much as possible, but more importantly, if there is an impact, we want to hear about it, and we want to make sure that they know that we're listening and we have their back.
If the negatives outweigh the positives, could you imagine that you might sue the casino for money?
I have not considered any kind of legal action. I think right now we want to make sure that we're, number one, that the residents know that we have their back, and number two, that we collect the data to be able to make a case, a greater case about potential mitigation or potential community benefits.
You said that you've been in conversations with the Wing people. Can you sort of describe how that's gone? Have they been receptive to the concerns of Revere, and have they offered anything to you to kind of mitigate that so far?
They have not offered anything enough to make sure that we're not trying to protect our residents. Our conversations have gone on, and there has been no kind of monetary interest in observing the fact that we share a border with Everett, and that's one issue that again, not having a surrounding community agreement really put us at a disadvantage, and we're in an unprotected state at this point. But they have no legal obligation to give us any money. And casino folks don't usually just hand out a check to people that they don't need to give money to. So what we're trying to do is make the case and make sure that we're tracking the information, and that we can make the case to win. We can make the case to the Gaming Commission that there are impacts that that we're paying for.
Mayor, can I ask you something? You're standing 3.5 miles from this huge casino that almost went to Revere. And I just wondered, over at Suffolk County, and I just wonder what your thoughts are about the opening of this casino.
So my first thought is that I'm trying to protect the residents of the city, right? And that we want to make sure that they know that the city has got their back, and that regardless of the impact that this casino will have, that we have some control. We have some control over how we are able to deal with this opening, right? This is a big deal. This is a big impact to the region, and we want to make sure that the residents know that even though we're in an unprotected state, we're not having a surrounding community agreement, that we have their back, and that we're supporting them, and that we're listening to the residents, and that we're planning for any of the impacts that are bound to happen.
Mayor, why now? It's less than 72 hours before it opens. Why are you expressing these concerns so late in the game?
So I've made my concerns well known to the Gaming Commission, to the folks at Wynn. It came to this is kind of a crunch time in terms of the opening, and making sure that, again, we're at least being proactive, and this is on the radar for all of the folks who are behind me, and for the residents. They have a lot of other things to be doing in their day-to-day work. This is another piece, and again, it's a piece that we don't have any direct control over, but we have control over what happens in the city, and we wanted to make sure that people know that in anticipation of the opening. Rather than taking a wait-and-see approach, I'd prefer to be proactive, and now is the time to be proactive.
All right, last question, guys.
The previous administration had sued the Gaming Commission over the process of awarding the license to Wynn. So there was a provision in the host community agreement that had been signed by the previous administration that said that they would not be a surrounding community agreement with any other applicant, and that was not related to the lawsuit.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.